Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Welcome to Game Over Montreal. It's feeling a little like Dominique Ducharme is behind the bench right now. I mean, I'm not trying to throw St. Louis fully under the bus, but tonight was not pretty. It was not a fun watch, and I feel like it's been getting consistently worse over the last stretch here. But you know what? Our tankers in the audience shall be happy. The Canadiens are on pace to get into that bottom area of the standings. They're working hard to break into the Arizona, Philadelphia, San Jose, Columbus range. I don't know if they can catch Anaheim or Chicago. They're just too bad. But hey, there's lots to talk about still. We can talk about Jordan Harris actually doing good things. Caden Guhle breaking the shutout bid. Jake Allen, put on a pretty strong performance considering the scoreline. And lots of other stuff. I've got a great guest with me tonight because he's not really a guest. He's the co-host of the show, Marc Dumont, and that's going to be really fun. But before we get into it, I got to tell you about Sports Interaction, because you think you know the way it's going to go? I did. I thought that Yoel Armia was going to score tonight because it was his 420th career game, and he's sitting on 68 career goals. He could have been the ultimate meme machine, 69 goals in 420 games. You could have done it, Yoel, but we were this close to perfection, and you ruined it. Unfortunate. You even got put on the first line. Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. You want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. All right, I'm going to welcome in my guest tonight, Marc Dumont, and I swear to God, guys, I actually did a sound check, and you will be able to hear him. No muting tonight, I promise. How you doing, Marc?
How's it going, Andrew?
No muting, and he comes on.
No, it's the ice cream muted me. I'm not going to reveal what I'm eating right now, but it's delicious. So that's a hint. It's really good ice cream. Hey, man, I loved how you broke from the ad copy there to go on a rant about Yoel Armia. Because that's how every Habs fan, I think, is feeling right now with some of these decisions, right? Like, it's being absolutely ridiculous. Get Dak back on there. I understand what they're trying to do, but you can't sour your top two players. I know I'm jumping into your rant right after it, but if we look in the chat here, I think, and by the way, hey, hi everyone in the chat. I think they'd agree that the idea of putting Yoel Armia on the first line is it's silly. It's galaxy brain moves by St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, it's desperation, right? I think they're trying to get their players who they want to trade this year going, and it's just not working. It worked for Mike Hoffman. I feel like he's actually playing pretty good hockey, like what you can expect from Mike Hoffman. He's doing his job.
Yeah.
It started to work a little bit for Dadonov. I feel like Jonathan Drouin, he's had some good games, some bad games. Production's not there. Armia, it's just been beyond a struggle. None of them really have put on performances that are going to get big returns. Like, even Hoffman, I feel like would be a struggle to trade unless you pulled back salary. It's the Sean Monahan show, really.
Yes, 100%. He'll get a good return, but like, what are you even trying to turn Armia into? You know what I mean? Like, you're
not taking salary back. That's what they're trying to turn it into.
Essentially, or maybe like, for some of the other guys, improve it from a fourth round pick to a third round pick. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. Now, a lot of the criticism here that I wrote about Ducharme tonight is a little unfair because he doesn't have a ton of roster construction. Pardon me? Yeah. And let's say the roster isn't there. I get the sense that they're being told by management, give these guys ice time. It's as simple as that. So I have a feeling that St. Louis kind of between a rock and a hard place. Now, that doesn't mean you don't use Justin Barron on the power play. Like, that's crazy. The guy was leading the AHL in goals, in power play goals. You have the worst power play in the NHL. Connect les, tu sais, ça prend pas la tête de Papineau là to figure out what's going on here. So just put Doc back on the first line. At least you'll have some functioning, some semblance of cohesion. And the good news tonight, if anyone was watching the Canada game, is there was a lot of great prospects on their way up, but you don't have to destroy the confidence of your top two players, while doing it. And also, I know everyone wants to see what kind it is. Half-baked. Half-baked. It's the right stuff. So shout out to everyone in the chat. And since we're talking about power play, we got Tankovsky saying maybe Ylönen should be given a shot. And I actually think he should.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of guys from the Laval Rocket who are going to get shots once some bodies start being moved out. I mean, I think the Canadians are also in a pretty precarious situation cap-wise. Like, they don't actually have a lot of wiggle room to be calling guys up willy-nilly when they don't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
Like, they've got guys that can play that are healthy, so they don't have a lot of movement there. But I mean, like, Nick Richard, he shouldn't be playing on the fourth line right now. He got a goal like right away. Like, just give him a chance. I know he's not a prospect per se. I think he's 26 years old, just turned 26. But the kid is at least playing with fire, right? And
intensity.
Yeah. And if you're going to take Doc off of the first line, hey, throw Bouchard up there for a couple games. See what happens.
Or maybe even Uri.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, I'm not saying that he deserves it, but yeah, at this point, this idea of trying to kickstart your veterans with your top line, c'est de la bouillie pour les chats. See, when I get annoyed, I go straight for the French. But yeah, I understand why he's trying to do it, but I don't like it for the Montreal Canadiens. It's overthinking things, and that's where Deschamps got into trouble, is when he started to overthink things instead of going with the most logical approach. So Anthony Richard led the AHL in goals. You give him 6 minutes a night. Like, what are we doing here? What's the point of that? And you also have to see what this guy can do in the NHL. So I thought it would be more of a season of opportunity rather than log jams. And it's kind of feeling a little disappointing that Hughes didn't get rid of this log jam before now. Now, understand, the guy loves sticking to his guns. He gets the trays he wants. But I feel like it's starting to come to a head. Actually, I feel like it came to a head in late November, and you're going to have a few disgruntled players on that in that lineup if the decisions stay the way they are.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that depends on, like, I think most of the guys know what they're in for with this team. But I don't know. It's one of those situations where I understand the method to the madness and why they are where they are. Like, if they were to trade a guy like Yoel Armia in the offseason, or a guy like Mike Hoffman, are they getting anything back that
no, they're going to buy helps? Out. They're going to buy out Yoel Armia. That's the only option here.
Yeah.
And that'll give him a little more money for Caulfield. It'll save him about $2 million overall, but he's got negative value. And as I believe it was Miss Epica was saying in our chat, even if Armia scores a goal, like, okay, cool. He has one goal since April 5th. You know, like what like, are we going to miraculously increase his value by not only just making it worse for him, because now you show that he can't score in the top line, but also you're tanking your two best players. And I just, I don't understand that. I like a lot of what Martin St. Louis has done with this team, but you know, when he said about this thing about concepts, he doesn't like systems, he likes concepts. I get that. I understand what he was trying to say, but the Canadians need a few solid systems, because they're getting outplayed more this year than they did last year. You know, so they're like, their XGF is down, their high danger chances are down. That's not the direction you want to tread. And I understand the draft is going to be great, so you don't want to overdo it. But these are some adjustments that you can make that won't necessarily ruin the tank, but it'll also pay off long term.
Yeah, I think part of that is also, like, they are very clearly a worse team than they were last year on paper. Right, like guys like Christian Dvorak,
Kulak, Petrie, like this, exactly. Yeah.
But like even guys like Christian Dvorak should be better this year than what we've seen. Right, like I thought there was a few moments tonight where
I thought he's been good recently, actually.
Yeah.
that's the classic Habs.
Yeah. Like there was a few moments tonight where Christian Dvorak actually went the extra mile on plays. I believe it was in the second or third period where. It was on a power play, and Suzuki just gave him, it was either Suzuki or Caulfield, just gave him a bad pass, like right in his skates at the blue line, and he lost the puck. The Lightning got it, and he just dove and poke-checked it down deeper, created a situation where they could have done something, right?
Yeah.
But then 4 times tonight, he put himself in a situation where he showed every Lightning player what he was going to do with the puck, and just passed it in the middle of 4 Lightning players with no Canadiens player. Like, he was trying to go through 4 guys on the power play, and just like, what are you doing? What do you think? There's just nothing there. And I think it's not just about Christian Dvorak, but guys like him need to be better. You know, last year, as much as people like to malign him, Jeff Petrie
Was the Canadiens' best defenseman by a country mile.
He was the best player on the Montreal
Yeah.
Canadiens last
Yeah.
year. And Mike Matheson, when he's been in the lineup,
He's been very good.
Fantastic. But he's only been in the lineup for 10 games. So
Yeah, I don't want to start the whole health thing with him, but what about the whole health thing with him there? You know,
yeah, I mean,
already.
It's hard to know what's going on there and whether they're just being cautious, but
Yeah.
I'm not so worried about the health thing because I don't think Matheson is like necessarily part of the rebuild. Like he's
No.
in
He
his
was
prime
just
right now, right? Like end of his prime.
And it was a way for them to not be too terrible on exactly. They're kind of hiding the tank a little bit there.
But it's not working out because he's not playing, right? So like they're very clearly a bad team without him, and it's just really tough. 5 rookies tonight, and I don't think the rookies were the worst defensemen because it's still Edmondson, you know. And I feel bad for him, but like, man, give Barron to Guhle and just see what happens.
Which is cool. You know, I still think it's really cool that, okay, I think it was what Paper Dolls mentioned, Suzuki looks frustrated, and we can talk about that, but that's just a result of, again, I don't know if everyone watches the locker room, the interviews. Suzuki said, it's so annoying not to score in the power play. You could tell he's getting annoyed. So when I talk about those adjustments for St. Louis, I'm talking about the importance for a guy like Suzuki and Caulfield keeping their confidence up. But yeah, so with the, going back to the rookies, I would say here, the Montreal Canadiens are in such a cool position because, Andrew, you and I have covered hockey together for almost a decade. When's the last time the Canadiens started with more than one rookie defenseman in the lineup? I honestly...
I feel like they had 2...
Beaulieu and Tenorti?
I don't know how much they played together. I feel like back in 2013, Yannick Weber was technically still a rookie, even though he'd played when PK Subban broke in. But
Le jeune Weber.
Weber was the 7th defenseman, right? Mm-hmm. And PK, when he started his career, was on the 3rd pairing. And it wasn't until around now, post-holidays, where Jacques Martin was like, I think he might be our best player. And decided to put him and Hal Gill as the first pairing and allowed Spacek and Hammerlich, I believe.
That was actually a really solid pairing for a long time.
Yeah, it was. The Czech sausage pairing, as they like to call it. But
yeah, so it's just cool that we're even talking about the idea that, I'm actually bring up Otto Leskinen got injured. Bring up William Trudeau just scored his first AHL goal tonight. Bring up William Trudeau. Let's go for it, man. Because it's not just a cool thing. It's not a tank method. These players, the rookie defensemen have been their best players, by far, other than Matheson. So it's cool to see, despite all my complaints about the roster construction and the usage, the rookies on the blue line is such a cool story, man. And it's not all of them will pan out, but at least 2 or 3 of them will probably turn into something fairly special. And that's really encouraging for the Canadiens.
Yeah, 100% is. And I wanted to talk about Jordan Harris tonight. But before I do, I'm going to tell everyone who's hanging out with us here on the holidays. We really appreciate you. I mean, shout out to the chat. I saw Denis I Miss Saku on Twitter saying that Mark and I are his dream hug. I got to say, Denis, you can do better. We know you. You can do better. Kay is here in the chat as always. Tagovsky, Noel, always here. Trizak, always here. Yeah. You people, we love you. Miss Epica, of course. Claire is here. And of course, our stalwart mod, Robert. We really appreciate how much
Paper Dolls,
bring
man,
to the show. So cool. And how loyal you guys are on a game like tonight during the holidays, that you still make time for our show. And all we ask is that if you're here, like the show, subscribe to the channel, maybe give us a little share on Twitter or Facebook or wherever. Tell everybody that you know that is a Habs fan that, hey, you have fun here. Why shouldn't they come and have fun as well? Because it's always fun to have more people here.
I'll eat one bite of ice cream if we get 2 more likes. That's why I'm putting the gauntlet down.
Denise says it's my dream hug and I'll choose who I want. Fair enough. He knows he can do better, but he shoots for not the stars, not the horizon, maybe the dirt. But that's okay.
the loam, whatever's below.
Well, the berm
I am
behind
a very
the
good
house.
hugger, though.
So am I. Maybe that's what he knows. Quality over
Hugalytics. He's got those in the numbers. But Jordan Harris, man, so smart. And I have to say, in development camp, I'm thinking this guy not ready yet. To make the jump straight from the NCAA, it's still a big deal. and but he's such a cerebral, smart player that I think he might be the Canadians' best all around like defense in terms of there's not a ton of weaknesses there. But it'd be tough to compare him to Guhle, but still pretty darn good considering fresh out of the NCAA, and he hasn't been. Maybe a little bit more now, but he really hadn't been sheltered to start the year. Him and Kovacevic were playing like fairly tough minutes. So Jordan Harris, amazing story. And he has the ability to jump into the play at the right time. His decision making is just on point. That's why I love smart players, because they make smart plays. And Jordan Harris, he's easy to like just because he makes so many good decisions on the ice.
Yeah, and what I noticed tonight, and it actually got better as the game went on. I thought he was one of the few players who got better as the game went on. But what I wrote down in the first period was Jordan Harris is great at, like, his instincts are fantastic, right? He knows where to go. He recoups pucks extremely well and gets into, like, dangerous areas. But I feel like he's at a point in his career right now where when he does have the puck in a dangerous area, he very rarely makes the best play. He just makes a good play. And I think if he can... Because I know St. Louis talked about this all the time, trying to find the best play, right? Yeah. If he can take that next step to making the best play, he can become a much more impactful defenseman.
Yeah.
There was a point, there's a play in the first period. I think he was the one who actually made the keep in at the blue line. It was like a terrible turnover by Tampa, and he cut inside, and I think he had Jonathan Drouin wide open on the side. And instead of going to Drouin, he had a clear passing lane, he just kind of shoveled a puck on net on Vasilevsky. And, like, fair, right? It's a scoring chance. It's never a bad idea.
And it's not going to get you benched.
Right.
That's the key here. Because rookies have to walk that line where make the right play, but actually 90% of the time it's like war games. The best play is not playing at all, right? Kind of pull yourself out of it. Because mistakes will be noticed.
For sure.
So
but
I think he's done a pretty good job.
It's stuff like that where I think a little bit more offensive confidence, and he tries to make that play instead. And in the third period, he basically did the exact same thing, but instead of just kind of flipping a shot on net, he drove the net. He saw that there was space in front of Vasilevsky, and he nearly scored.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I'm a big fan of Jordan Harris and what he brings to the team, and I'm excited to see where things go with him. And of course, we got to give a shout out to Caden Guhle for breaking the shutout.
Oh my God! Well, first of all, and Tankowski here is saying he was they were in favor of Norlinder at training camp. I was too. I was really drumming the Norlinder beat there. I was saying, hey, the guy has experience. He can retrieve pucks. He's quick and break out, but it quite clearly, I'll take the L on that one too. Harris has been the better defenseman, and Guhle. What I love is that this guy hates to lose, and I know it's so cliche, but like it's really like it bothers him to lose. So when he's scoring those goals and he's not doing a big celebration, he's actually just pissed off that he didn't score 3 more. So that's the kind of like win at all cost mentality that I love to see, and I think his mental fortitude this year has been just fantastic. Like that's what you want to see from rookies, and it's a big risk to start. Like there's 7 rookies in the lineup right now. You have to worry about, their not their mental health per se, but just their overall impressions of games. They're developing in this. You don't want it to be in a negative environment. And I think Guhle, despite some really tough usage, man, he seems like the most mature guy on the team, right? Like he's like 90 years old, this guy. So it's been really fun to see him break out into his transition has been much better than from draft to now. His transition game has just like exploded there. It used to be pretty good, but now it's fantastic. So I think you look at him and you might have the foundation there on your blue line for quite a while. Like I was never convinced, Andrew, but I'm starting to maybe turn the page here and say, this guy might be a top pairing defenseman for a very, very long time. Because I saw him as like a good number 3. But hey, I'll be happily proven wrong in this case.
I think we're going to see that very quickly. I know his underlying numbers are garbage, but as soon as Guhle gets somebody beside him who isn't a giant boat anchor and matures a little bit, like in terms of processing the game, it's going to flip really, really significantly. And, obviously having a bit more depth on the team, like it's just really tough, I think, to push play when the team is as weak for the most part.
But then stop anchoring him though. Try him. Like, hey, I'd have to go back, but his numbers beside Jack Harris and Kovacevic, very, very limited, right? but we're talking about like 20, 25 minutes, numbers through the roof, like 70% on like shots, high danger shots, expected goals. This idea that Guhle needs to be mentored, I love it in theory. But if you didn't know their ages, if you didn't have a stat sheet, who would you say is the veteran between him and Sava or him and Edmondson? You look at him and you say, okay, this guy has much more poise.
Yeah.
He's clearly the guy that spent a lot more time in the NHL. So I kind of reject the idea that he needs a mentor at this point. May as well see what he can do, or put Sava or put all your veterans on the top pairing, let them get destroyed, and maybe give them some easier usage. That works too. But I don't like the idea of anchoring them with, let's be honest, bad veterans.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain amount to it as well of like, they probably want to trade Joel Edmondson this year. I was going to call him Joel Edmondson, but he's not the Joel. There's one Joel and one Joel.
They're going to get like I'm guessing because Anderson's gone, in my opinion, almost guaranteed. Monahan, 100% guaranteed. I think Edmondson, someone's going to dangle something really stupid, like kind of like the Ben Sherratt deal, where you're just like, oh yeah, I guess I'll accept this deal, like, so yeah, absolutely. I think you move him. I think you move him tomorrow if you get a good offer. I'll be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it'll be.
Oh, here I go trading everyone again.
Yeah, we're trading everyone. Don't start trading Sam Montembeault though. The chat will go crazy on you.
No.
Don't start with him or Jake Allen. They'll go crazy.
No, absolutely not. But as Trizak points out, good day for the tank. And tomorrow, there's no best result, but
there's a worst result. A 3-point game.
Yeah. There is a worse result. Yeah, exactly. The way they're going, I think it was Trizak mentioned it earlier in the chat, like they're not scoring goals, so that won't be an issue. Plus, I think they're getting Barkov and Ekblad back tomorrow. So that should be fun for the Canadians. But here's the good news. Looking at the tank, the Habs actually have the third highest odds of winning the draft lottery, even though right now I think they're 8 and Florida's 10. So it's really about like 5 and 6.5%. But they're right behind Columbus, I believe, in terms of odds to win the first overall pick. So even if you don't get a guy like Connor Bedell, who had 7 points tonight, you're looking at one of the best drafts, top 5s in like the last 20 years. So as much as I'm complaining all now, everyone knew this was a plan going into it. Maybe that false sense of security after the strong start changed things, but this is going according to plan, right? You want to get one more good player and then go. So it's just, there is a huge silver lining for the Montreal Canadiens here in that Florida paid them a first-round pick for 30 games of Ben Sherratt, and someone else will pay them, I don't know about a first, but a good pick for Joel Edmondson. And Kent Hughes has mentioned several times he wants another pick next year, first-round pick. So there'll be 5 first-round picks in 2 years. That is some exciting stuff, especially with the draft that's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to find another 2023 pick this year, just because I think another year separated from that Stanley Cup final run, there's like less shine on Joel Edmondson than there was on Ben Sherratt, right? And Sherratt also had that like goal scoring streak to begin last year, which helps out. But a couple of good games would help. So maybe a little scoring streak,
something to keep the fans entertained, right? Because like they found a happy middle at the beginning of the year where they were entertaining, chaotic, and they lose games. But at this point, the fans aren't getting much out of it in hockey. We're in the in sports entertainment industry. They need to be entertaining a little bit more. And as Montreal MUFC mentions, some people don't like the tanking either. So you have to strike the balance between it. I think there's ways players never tank, but management does. And stuff like fixing the power play or taking Yoel Armia off the top line. And by the way, in the chat, they mentioned, can they buy him out? They can absolutely buy him out. We talked about it earlier. It should happen the moment the buyout period starts. But going into it, I think there is a way that you can tweak this team a little bit so that they're not as bad and still not ruin your, going from 14% to 18% of the power play is not going to ruin your tank.
No, and the other thing is, like, there is a way. We've already seen it. Keep the top line together. Even in games where they lose, the top line is entertaining, right? Let the kids run a little bit. Like, put Guhle with Justin Barron or Kovacevic, whatever. It doesn't really matter. And let them make mistakes. Let them have fun. Let them push play. Drop Edmondson down a little bit. Keep him away from top competition. Insulate him a little bit. Tell Mike Hoffman, don't pass anymore. Just shoot.
Do the Danny Heatley, just be ready to shoot at all times.
Exactly, right? One thing I noticed about tonight is, like, there's like this team is not good, but also what we're looking at right now is like the worst of the worst, right? Because this is not a confident team right now.
No.
Outside of Cole Caulfield and maybe Caden Guhle, nobody is really shooting with authority.
There's no shine right now. There's not a ton of pride, and
Yeah, but like even they'll get into situations where they have a scoring chance, and it's always like you got to make that one extra stick handle before you shoot. You know, like, you get the puck passed to you in the slot, just rip it. If it gets blocked, who cares? Because you're not scoring. Take advantage of the block. The block creates chaos. You can recover that puck and shoot again. You think like the
Trust your
goalie's going to
instincts.
stop it? Just shoot. Go quick. Make quick plays. And the Canadians aren't making any quick plays outside of Cole Caulfield. And that kind of transitions into what I really wanted to talk about tonight, which is, are you worried about Nick Suzuki? I know by the underlying numbers, he actually had a great night tonight. But
Did he?
yeah, he was the best player on the team in terms of, or second best in terms of Rel Corsi, but
Oh, wow.
and I think the best in terms of
And
shots.
somehow, with Armia on that line, they finished with under 4% expected goals. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. It wasn't great, but you know, take what you can get, I guess. The fact he had a 22.7% expected goals rate, and relative to team, it was +3.
Right? Yeah.
It was a bad
Am I
night.
worried in the sense that I think Nick Suzuki really wants to win as well? And this, he's not a fan of this tank, but he'll kind of he'll tolerate
He'll grin
it.
and bear it, but you know, after
Yeah.
the game tonight, there was I think it was either Kay or Noel. Noel posted in the chat that he said our power play is embarrassing, and when your
Nick
captain
Suzuki
is
said the
saying
same
that-
thing.
That's what I'm saying. Nick Suzuki said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if your captain is saying that, and by the way, it's clearly true. So anybody who's going to come at him, like, he's telling the truth, and I feel like there's value to that. But I look at Nick Suzuki lately, and I'm not seeing dynamic plays from him. I'm seeing a lot more frustration, and I think it started back in the Edmonton game when they had that penalty box parade, and he picked up the puck and just threw it down the ice.
Yeah,
On the
like the
penalty
first
kill.
brain fart of his NHL career. Yeah.
Well, not first, but yeah, he lost his composure a little bit, right? And I feel like we're seeing more of that this year, or the last stretch in December, and it's just throwing him off. Like Caulfield, I look at him and I'm saying, okay, he's doing the things that he's supposed to do. He's taking the puck to the right spots. He's trying to score, and Suzuki's like passes into skates. He gets the puck, and instead of trying to make a play, he's just rimming it around the boards. He's not pulling any deeks. You know, like I don't know if he's hurt or if he's just frustrated with how things have gone, or a little bit of both.
I think he's trying to almost do it himself, right? Like you know, you get to the point where, I mean, that's what he's been doing the entire season. Let's be honest. But you get to a point where you keep having guys like Anderson, Armia, like let's be honest, guys that are absolute anchors on your line, and Caulfield's well covered. So I think he's kind of putting it on himself, putting maybe a little bit too much pressure. But like you say, it's almost like he's making decisions that he's such a smart player again, and that's what makes Nick Suzuki borderline elite, is that he's intelligent. That decision making has been a little off now, and it's almost like he's gotten a little. It's not the whole grab your stick too hard thing, you know. I don't think he's stressed out or anything like that, but I think he's kind of upset at himself that he's not producing as much as he used to, and that's good. You want that fire to be there. But also it's the shine of the start of the season's gone, Andrew. Like I think people are starting to realize that was a fun start, but it was a false start. Someone mentioned in the chat, it was a few things that were keeping them there. You know, the goalies were great. Caulfield was scoring, Suzuki was scoring, end of list basically. But now I think the reality is that you're in for a rough second half of the season, and players hate losing. So I love to see that, but you're right. You do need to make sure that your captain is happy. And I'm not saying that he's unhappy right now, but when he says stuff like our power play is embarrassing and needs to be fixed, I think you listen to him. And just, again, the idea of Justin Barron not being on the power play tonight is just absolutely blows my mind. I love Arbor Jackeye, but come on, là, qu'est-ce qu'on fait là? Tu sais, comme Moses de tabarouette. Like, you just put Justin Barron on there, stop galaxy braining it. I liked Anthony Richard, but yeah, stuff like that needs to work for a team to grow, to develop in a winning culture. I think that's so darn important. And I'm not saying they have to make the playoffs this year, but just like tonight, was the type of game where the guys won't say a darn word after it. Like they'll be in the locker room, no one will say a goddamn thing because they're all embarrassed, they're all frustrated. So thankfully there's a game tomorrow, but games like this against Tampa, yeah, I understand why they're weighing on Nick Suzuki.
Yeah, and I feel like it's almost better that he's letting it out a little bit than trying to pretend like, it's water off the duck's back, because it's good for fans to see that he does give a shit, and that I remember during the golf tournament, he was like, "Oh yeah, our goal is to make the playoffs," and everyone was kind of laughing at him. But that was his goal. That's the mindset of every player who steps on the rink.
Players don't tank
in the NHL, right? Like, well, maybe not every player, but most players, I think. It's just wild that it's gotten to this point so quickly. I think like the change has been so fast, and the fact is the goaltenders have still been good. Like Jake Allen allowed 4 tonight. And the end result was 4-1.
He was probably their best player, wasn't he?
He was up there. Tampa Bay had 5.15 expected goals tonight per natural stat trick. And I actually wanted to show something because like every game, I follow an account on Twitter that every game tweets out the game score charts.
Hockey card stat or whatever.
Yes, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
And
it's just fun to quickly look through. I don't always agree with game score start.
No.
But sometimes it's just players get lucky on a certain thing and it bumps up their game score, or unlucky bumps it down. But I looked at the one from tonight, and you won't be able to see it right here, Mark, but I'm going to pop it up for everybody else to see. And usually there's some players in the positives. Tonight,
I think the Richard line's the only one that was at 50%, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Evans, no, I'm talking about. I didn't look at the player score. Are they all on the left-hand side?
All on the left-hand side. Every single player on the Montreal Canadiens this tonight, and pretty deeply.
So when off the charts, but no, the other way. It's the bad way. Yeah.
The top
it's
player.
It's off the positive side of the charts.
The top player on the Canadiens was Jake Evans, and he was about a negative 0.5. When you take away,
good. That's always a good sign.
Positive. Christian Dvorak, like I mentioned, he had some great moments. He had the biggest positive score, but also one of the biggest negative scores. So it's
the Habs did up real good.
The fact is, it was a shit game from pretty much everybody. Nobody had a game to write home about, except
even
for
St. Louis. I thought
Allen.
It was St. Louis' worst game as head coach of the Canadiens.
Yeah, I don't know if I would.
I know you're gonna say they don't have the tools, and I get that, but there was some unforced errors there. There have been. I feel like the honeymoon with St. Louis is pretty much coming to an end. I think we're starting to see some weakness in his case and some decision making that's just. I mean, I'm not gonna go on and on about it, but the Armia should have never been on the first line. Let's be perfectly honest. That's shenanigans, tomfoolery. That's it's just ridiculous. It's fiddlesticking stupid there. So
it is.
I think St. Louis needs to also lead by example. Just like someone in the chat mentioned, Nick Suzuki needs to lead by example. Well, he needs to prepare them in the best possible way. And that doesn't mean they're going to beat the Lightning, but show some life. As Claire mentioned, losses are fine, but games like tonight, demoralizing. And it's the kind of thing that makes you want to not tune in next game.
And ironically, the last game against the Lightning where it was 5-1, the Canadiens were way better than in this game, right? And I saw people be like, "Oh, well, it's the Lightning." I don't think the Lightning played well.
They're okay.
Yes, they completely dominated by all measures.
That Braden Point goal, though. Oof.
Oh, it was ridiculous. But man, soft. Poor Christian Dvorak. That was such a soft play.
And you know what? The worst part is Dvorak was he was trying hard. He was back in his own zone. He actually got a deflection on it. 99%.
And then he just gave up.
I know, but 90% of the time, that would have been a great play. We'd be like, "Oh, Dvorak," but instead, all 5 Canadiens players, including the goalie, got posterized. Yeah, that would yeah,
it was not great. But what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Oh, they were better than the other game. They played well at even strength, got killed on special teams. Tonight, it was just terrible all around. But you watched the Lightning play tonight, and I don't think that they were aggressive whatsoever. They stayed back, they hung back in their posture, waited for the Canadiens to make mistakes, and it was just bam, bam, bam. Beginning of the third period,
kind of like the Stanley Cup final 2 years ago. Yeah, just wait for them to make a mistake, and
I think it was different then. I think the Lightning took it to them, took them to the woodshed pretty hard that whole time.
At least in terms of capitalizing on the mistakes there.
Yes, for sure. But tonight, I feel like the Lightning didn't play aggressive at all. They didn't force mistakes. They just let the Canadiens hand them the game.
The Habs were protecting a 3-0 deficit, right? Half the game. It looked like they were playing good old Jacques Martin prevent defense.
Yeah.
It was it's the kind of thing that sends shivers down your spine. No, you're right. That's how I wrote my recap there is you don't want them or expect them to win against Tampa, but show some life just for just show some emotion. And the Canadiens have the most difficult schedule moving forward. So again,
Great.
fans of Mishkov and Fantinelli and Bidal will be happy about that one. But things are going to get a lot worse before they get better, and they're probably going to trade some players. So the lineup will probably lose some talent as well. So you just don't want to see it crash and burn, right? You want to see like a controlled crash if possible. And I think tonight just really, really reminded people of the start of the year last season under Sham, and I think it kind of evoked some pretty bad post-traumatic stress disorder there.
Yeah, and I feel like it's kind of been leading there the last stretch of games, right? But luckily they can get back to it against the Panthers, who are struggling mightily as well. And I don't know, maybe they could score a couple goals. Someone mentioned in the chat earlier on, I think before we even started, they only scored 3 goals or more 4 times in December, which is
I believe that
not
was
great.
Trzak.
They're not a high-powered team, but
I was looking at it tonight.
without Sean Monahan, it's rough, right? And I know people are not high on Gallagher, but missing Brendan Gallagher and Sean Monahan at the same time.
Monahan, I mean, he allows Doc to go on the top. Yeah. I was looking at it today and I almost tweeted out, but I felt like sometimes I feel I shouldn't tweet too many negative things about the Habs, because as soon as I do, people are like, bruh, like you just hate them now. And like, yeah, I don't love them now. But at the same time, I don't want to be too negative. But I look Kucherov, which is their 5th leading goal scorer, I believe, on Tampa Bay. He had more goals than like 7 Canadians for like combined, like Evans, Armia, Dadonov, like you can go through the list. And I was just like, man, this is just showing the disparity in talent here. And unfortunate, I'll say this, I think Bergevin left the team in pretty good shape, but those long-term crap contracts are really, really, really dragging them down right now. And it's not just a matter of not getting value out of them. You're basically removing opportunities for guys like Slavkovsky, who, by the way, I know he's not having his best stretch, but the whole idea was you don't send him to the World Juniors because he's top 6 now. He's doing good. Now he's right back into the same position where he's hardly playing. I was watching the game today. Slovakia, by the way, who beat the United States. Meshal scored a goal. Hudson got an assist. And I was thinking for the first time, man, Slavkovsky should be in Halifax right now, honestly, or I guess Moncton. I think that decision, in my opinion, was faulty just because they didn't follow through and keep him where he was. They were happy with the results, but the second he made him, he didn't look great, they dropped him down, and that's kind of what they did to Kotkaniemi. So they have to be careful with Slavkovsky. I think he has more, not maturity, but I think he's got probably a little more resilience, on that side, but it could get to him eventually if he keeps doing everything right and he doesn't get rewarded for it. I think that could become an issue with the first overall pick in the NHL.
Yeah, we'll see. I thought his ice time was actually okay tonight. He played 14 and a half minutes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, 2 on the power play. He was playing with Dvorak, right? So
that's not bad then.
He was getting his... I mean, the main question, I guess, is like, should he be playing more than a guy like Josh Anderson, who doesn't really bring a lot? But
no,
I don't know.
You still...
I mean,
you can find minutes.
Jonathan Duran played 17 and a half minutes. I know part of that's on the power play, but it's hard to justify that as well.
Exactly. And this idea, you're not going to get much for Dwayne. You're not going to get much for anyone else actually in that lineup except for Anderson. I actually agree with Anderson's the kind of guy that you can pump his value. Like 2 goals and suddenly GMs lose their minds. Yeah. But for the most part, I don't think that those guys should be getting priority over Slavkovsky's development. And it's not that Slavkovsky's been a world beater or anything, but you want to, they said at the beginning of the year, we want him to establish an identity in the NHL, which is great. But that has to come with some semblance of stability. And I believe tonight was the 19th line combination he's been on in the NHL. Like, in 35, like that's a lot, right? So his usage has been really inconsistent. I think they have to watch that. Although, you know what? I didn't check the minutes, so I look like the idiot. I figured he was about 11 tonight. So
yeah, I mean, I thought that he didn't have that great of a night, honestly, looking at it, but then he actually led the entire team in, or the entire forward group in expected goals for relatives. So
what was but his expected goals was what, 30%, and he's still
37.7, man. He crushed it tonight. It was a bad game. The worst. This is why it was such a bad game that I feel like we can't read too much into it.
No, you burned the
Even
tape.
though we're gonna do 40, like we've already done 40 minutes on this game, which is crazy. But yeah, it was a rough one. I'm trying to think of what else I had written down.
Oh, what man, Wi-Fi didn't. Our friend Arbor Jacki didn't fight, but Pizzetta actually scored a victory there against Corey Perry in the third period. So he landed a few underhand lefts there. That was a nice little fight.
I will say, I know it's contrary to like hockey Twitter public opinion, but I unreservedly love Corey Perry. Watching him up close for a season, I have so much respect for what he brings and like the sacrifices he's willing to make. Like that
Corey Perry's awesome, man.
Oh man, amazing. However,
he's just out there living his best life, and he's going at like pond hockey speed. You know, when it always reminds me at about like 11:30 in the middle of the winter, and people kind of slow down. They've been on the ice all day, and you're just doing these little dipsy doodles. But he's doing it. He's playing shinny against NHL players. Like that's he's fun to watch, man. I'm a big Corey Perry fan.
Like he's not at his best anymore, obviously, but man, he is so skilled. He's so incredible. But I will say he looked like a punk in that Pizzetta confrontation. When you throw the sucker punch, the glove sucker punch, and then you lose the fight, man, walk of shame.
Yeah.
Like they should. It's wild that they didn't give him the extra 2 for roughing, honestly. And honestly, in that stage of the game, they probably should have just sent him home. Like send him to the locker room. Stop starting this crap. But I will say, you know what? Michael Pizzetta. Here's a great positive spin for the Montreal Canadiens. Michael Pizzetta. More goals this season than Victor Hedman. Look it up.
Ça sent la coupe. Ça sent la coupe. What is Hedman hasn't scored this year?
No, he's got 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's saving it for the playoffs.
I like Michael Pizzetta just in the sense he's a really nice guy. I think I've told you this before, Andrew, but at one point we were doing the Habs media day, so the Habs players come in and you talk to all of them, and then I knew him quite well from the AHL. Like this guy was the first guy on the ice every morning, and you know how the whole story is you work hard, you could get opportunities. His opportunities actually went down. Joey Bouchard did not like Michael Pizzetta. Let's just make that clear. The guy worked his ass off, and he just never got those opportunities. So once Guhle took over, and then Pizzetta had that great camp in Montreal, he earned that contract, and we're at the media day, and I just walked up, I'm like, hey, Michael, real quick. And he's like, oh, Mark, real quick, congrats on your contract. And I was like, oh, I was about to say congrats on your contract because I just signed an extension with the Habs. I was like, no, but to me, and I'm not trying to brag here, it's really cool that someone like a professional athlete would pay attention to stuff like that and just, want to, I guess, just point out that they're paying attention. I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool on his part because he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He makes you look like he basically looks like a Longueuil, going to war with all that hair. But honestly, one of the nicest, hardest working guys in the entire NHL. So when Jacki came in, I felt bad because he kind of lost his role. But when you look at 5 goals and 11 assists last year on the fourth line, that's not bad production. But if we're getting that on this year, you'd be happy.
Yeah, 100%. I think he's a guy that I don't see a real future with as this team rebuilds, but I can see him earning consistent spots in the NHL for the next
or going at the deadline in the sense
years.
That's
what I mean. Like for like a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick, somebody can add him in their lineup and get value out of him. Like I feel like he could be a guy who you spot in once or twice a series that just makes things happen, right? He'll go in there and score like a stupid goal that changes the tide of a game.
The Travis Moen goal, yeah.
Oh God.
No, but really, you do need guys. I know for a fact that some teams have inquired, and I wouldn't be surprised if they move him, just because I know that Hughes also kind of feels a little bad that Jacki essentially stole his role. So yeah, no, absolutely, go Michael Pizzetta. You just want to see guys like that succeed, because for all the credit Joël Bouchard got in the development system, and I know this at the end of the show, I think he deserved about 0% of it, if I'll be honest. And I was the guy in that arena, watching every single practice, watching every single game. Joël Bouchard got so much credit for stuff he wasn't doing. For example, Jake Evans, he almost destroyed this guy's confidence. But somehow he got credit for like restarting his career. I mean, relax with that. It was a great story because everyone loved Bouchard, but the experience that I saw there, especially with guys like Michael Pizzetta, was that it was a very good thing that he's no longer with the organization.
Well, I mean, if you believe in karma, Joel Bouchard left the Montreal Canadiens organization, missed out on a chance to become a head coach, went to the Anaheim Ducks, and promptly got fired. So,
yeah, and he would have, like, 100% he would have been in Cham's spot, and he probably would have lost his job. But yeah, that was the biggest issue between Cham or Bouchard and Bergevin is they were so alike. Like they're almost an identical person, and they obviously butted heads for that reason. But I just like seeing guys that defy the odds like Pizzetta, just because no one gives him a chance. And his coach, even the coach that was like, oh, if you work hard, I'll give you a chance. La bouillie pour les chats. So he never did that. So Michael Pizzetta succeeded despite Joël Bouchard. That's how I'd put it.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's wrap up the show for tonight. I really enjoyed chatting with you as always, Mark, and chatting with everyone here in the chat. But
I ate almost the whole thing of ice cream, man.
Yeah, I might have to do that right after we close things out. But we're right back at it tomorrow
the chat was cool, eh? Everyone, Kate, shout out to everyone. I'll be back on New Year's Eve. I'm going to be hanging out with all my friends. They'll be in the background, just out of shot. And I think I'm going to do for New Year's Eve, because I was going to get a guest, but I think we're going to do a straight Q&A. We're going to talk about our favorite things this season or cap out the year. So kind of do like a year in review. It's a 4 p.m. afternoon game against Le Capital de Washington. And Ovechkin needs 80 goals to pass Gretzky?
93.
We can't say that it won't happen on New Year's Day. That's our New Year's Eve. That's all I'm saying.
If they call it Caden Primo, maybe. No offense, Caden. It's just you know what happened last year. You know it was bad. It was rough. Anyway, see you all tomorrow. I'll be right back on here with Ian Boisvert.
Real quick, shout out to Robert for hosting while I was stuck in a train station. By the way, don't sleep in a train station. It sucks. It really, really sucks. But I got stranded via rail style, and I had to come home. I didn't do anything, so I couldn't log in there. But Robert and everyone, I looked for all the comments. Everyone said did a great job, and that does not surprise me because Robert is absolutely amazing. So shout out to Robert for hosting. It's not easy to jump into someone else's stream, especially a team you're not super familiar with. So shout out to Robert for being excellent as usual.
Robert and Kara also on that stream. Huge thanks. That also allowed me to have a night off and go see Canada's Drag Race live show, the finale, which was super fun. And I would suggest anybody.
Any spoilers? No spoilers.
I mean, obviously it's over, but I would suggest anybody who has the opportunity to go to something like that to feel like the actual, the love in that room. It was so cool. Such a joyous atmosphere. Really, really fun.
That's my experience as well with in terms of the drag community and whatnot. It's some of the most fun, and liberated. And there's no masks. There's no BS. It's genuine. It's very genuine. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really, really cool. And one of my most fun live experiences doing anything. So highly suggested if you ever get a chance to do something like that.
And shout out, I know it's always the same, we love our Miss Epicas and our Claires and our Paper Dolls and our Noahs. Slavkovsky joined us tonight, and actually had a bunch of fantastic questions or comments in the chat there. So tone it down, Slavkovsky, because I want to keep my job. But it's always fun to see new people in the chat. And hey, here's the great part. The Habs might keep losing, but as we saw tonight, I was going to call him Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard keeps scoring. So again, if the Habs can lose a few more and Florida can lose a few more, they'll have the top three. They'll be in top 3 odds to win the lottery.
All right, Connor Bedard, future Montreal Canadien. You heard it here first from Marc Dumont. A Marc Dumont guarantee. Yeah, there's no going back on it.
Connor Bedard might have a career. Yeah, exactly. CJ Duggan, hey, cheers. We're going to say bye to everyone. Much love, right? Much love to all our chat. You're back tomorrow with Ian?
Yeah, back tomorrow with Ian, and then Mark on New Year's Eve, and then the first game of the new year, I've got Eric Young joining me with Chris Meany. So they're good buds, and we're going to do some wrestling talk because that's always fun. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye, chat. Bye, Claire.
We'll have lots of fun.
Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.